Happy day everybody, my name is Jeremy and this is Barbecue Elementary. Today I'll be making a smoked tri-tip sandwich and a Blackberry Bourbon Smash on the side. Let's go. Lately my wife has been a little annoyed that when I make these videos I'm basically making huge slabs of meat, so for this week's video I wanted to make more of a balanced dish to make her happy. I also finally picked up a wireless thermometer probe and wanted a cook that I could test it out on without committing to an extremely long cook, so I went with tri-tip. I initially was going to use my go-to Lowry's seasoning salt, but decided to switch it up a little and prep my own rub. It was nothing fancy really, just 2 teaspoons of kosher salt, 1 teaspoon of black pepper, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, half a teaspoon of smoked paprika, and a half a teaspoon of dried thyme.
I don't know if we'll have enough time.
Once all the spices were mixed in, it was time to prepare the tri-tip. Speaking of huge slabs of meat, I picked up just your average looking tip from my local grocery store, decided where to cut into the bag, and got to work. This tip in particular did have a pretty impressive fat cap and quite a bit of silver skin, so I did my absolute darndest to remove as much of those pesky varmints as I could. It is smart to have an extremely sharp knife so that all of your movements count, and I do recommend using a curved one like this boning knife I'm using. It really helps to minimize the huge gashes that can accidentally happen while trying to remove the fat from the good stuff. And I did go pretty hard trying to clean this thing up, even though I probably could have left some of it, but I figured practicing on this $30 cut would help me for more expensive cooks down the line like brisket. Once I was pretty satisfied and basically all the meat was exposed, it was time to cover it back up, but this time with rub. I started by lubing it up with this nice olive oil I picked up, then started to apply my timely rub. I have tried putting homemade rubs into shaker containers, but have had little success, especially when using really coarse salt. I don't mind using my hands, but if y'all have a better idea, leave it in the comments, it would be much appreciated. When the tri-tip was seasoned, it was time to put in the probe. I guess the idea is that you find the thickest part of the meat and push it in as deep as you can. I had my Traeger ready to run at 250 degrees for this cook, and as long as I don't melt a plastic cutting board onto the grates, things should go pretty smoothly. Then it was time to make the cocktail. I started off by making a small amount of 1:1 honey syrup. That's 1 part honey to 1 part water. You could also very easily sub this out with a simple syrup if you'd like, and it would do really nothing to change the flavor of the cocktail. Then I went ahead and juiced my lemons. Fresh lemon juice is very important, not the pre-juiced lemon juice from the plastic lemons. If you're using pre-juiced lemon juice from plastic lemons, then get bent. For the build, you'll use 4 fresh sage leaves and 5 blackberries with a half an ounce of honey, then muddle. Then 3/4 of an ounce of lemon juice and 2 ounces of a high-proof bourbon. This one is a borderline hazmat single barrel from Mile High Spirits here in Denver. You'll then find the largest ice cube you can and give it a good shake. Then snag a rocks glass, and because it's a cute drink, get some cute ice cubes and double strain. And garnish with either a lemon wheel or some sage leaves like I did. I finally had a second to try and make the waiting drink of the week disappear until I remembered I had an avocado aioli to make. To start, I absolutely wrecked a clove of garlic into a million minced pieces. I then removed the skin and soul from 1 avocado and gave it a good mashing. After thoroughly pulverized, add 1/2 cup of God's greatest gift to the mayo family, Duke's. I was trying to be a little bit fancy earlier when I called it an aoli, but I suppose it's more of a mayoli. Then 1 tablespoon of lime juice. Fresh lime juice is important. If you're using pre-juiced lime juice from plastic limes, then half a teaspoon of salt, a half a teaspoon of black pepper, and the garlic we minced earlier. And stir until it's as smooth as Rob Thomas. Then it was time to make some caramelized onions. I found the 2 largest sweet onions I could find and gave them a good slice. Once that sad movie was over, I threw all of the onions into a hot pan of oil and butter to cook down for about 40 minutes. Then I added a teaspoon of balsamic vinegar for flavor off camera. The tri-tip had taken about an hour and a half to get to 130 degrees. I let it rest for about 20 minutes and it was time to carve. It is important to make sure you pay attention to the grain on a tri-tip, as they are a little bit wonky and have multiple different grain directions, but nailing it will give you the most tender results. And I don't mean to brag too much, but I nailed this one. The meat was tender and the rub was super minimal but flavorful, perfect if you were just going to throw some chimichurri on top, eat plain, or turn it into sandwiches like I did. You'll see that it did take me a second to find the grain on this second portion, but once I did, it was great. Once the meat was cut, I halved and toasted these steak buns. I then smeared the Avocado Aioli onto both buns and topped with the steak, some sharp white cheddar cheese, and of course the caramelized onions before broiling them on high for 2 minutes. I have to say this was a super fun cook. Challenged my planning ability and caused me to get creative and hand make almost everything but the bread and cheese, and I'm really proud of the way it turned out. The sandwich was amazing, the steak mostly broke away easily when bit into, and the aioli was tangy and creamy, while the onions brought in an uppercut of sweet and savory that really pushed it over the top. And the cocktail was both acidic and refreshing. It was a really good sidekick for this sandwich. And as always, thanks a million for tuning in. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't to follow me along on my adventures through Barbecue Elementary.